This is Sally Wood for Be Inspired, and today I'm trying to inspire myself. I rescued this poor chair from the side of the road, and it is just standing next to it is making my face itch, so it's hence me being in crappy duds. Don't want to ruin everything today. It was obviously for an older person. It's got longer legs, so it was to help them get in and out of the chair. And then a friend of mine popped over and said that he would actually rather like the chair, as he's just moved into an apartment. So I will do my very best, and we will discuss everything as I get to it and why it's done like that, or what I've got to do to improve it. So number one is those legs are coming off, and I'll find some new ones to put on. So here we go. First of all, I'm going to remove these. Now usually you can just twist these. Oh, you can. Okay, my mistake. We can turn those and get rid of those. So now, having removed the legs, I'm going to remove the bottom cloth. I'm using a tack remover which has this little V in, but you could use a straight edged screwdriver if you wanted to. If you can't get the staple out one way, move it from another, and then I'll just work my way around. Some might just come out. So the other thing to do is get a pair of pliers and start taking your staples out as you go, if you can. This is going to take quite a while as I work my way around, but this is when you start learning about what kind of chair you've got. You can see this is the original chair, and this plyboard has been added to it. So I need to take these plyboards off as I get round to each corner as well as the cover. As long as we don't find roaches in here, we'll be fine. I did that once. Not pleasant, but a warning to people with children: do not let your kids eat cereal or food in front of the TV. You have no idea what's climbing around in your chairs. So anyway, let's get back to business, and I will carry on and get back to you in a minute when I've got something else to point out. So I'm just going to clip here and here to remove it, and that's one less piece I'm dealing with. And I'm also going to cut the bottom cloth because it's got dog hair on it, and it cuts down on some of the dust that's going to go around. Just do it gently so you don't put too much dust in the air. I'm also going to cut back on here too. I'm going to leave some of this on here because when I turn the chair over I need it there. The next section I'm going to work on is to remove this skirt and also the side there. As you get further down on the skirt, just wrap it in so any of these staples will be on the inside and won't hurt your hands as you grab the fabric and ease it up. The bottom, it'll be a bit lumpy because it's got more than one piece going into the corner. I'm going to cut through the piping and as much of the skirt as I can, then go back and get all of the staples out. You don't want to be cutting yourself on staples. It's really important to do that. And also when you get doing it, just pinch the staple and turn the pliers. Don't just pull. If you do that, you're going to strain your hands. You wear them out. So use your tools to do the work. Now I've got this skirt off, I'm going to start working on the bottom of the chair. Got my second part done. I'm just going to cut down here, fold all the dust in. The base of this poor chair is really not in good shape. That shouldn't be down there like that. Now this part here is actually a back tacking, which is in metal, and I will keep that because it's for the side of the chair, can be reused. So you just put your tack remover, screwdriver underneath and just ease it up. This is quite horrible stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut it so it stays in its piece of fabric like that. And then all I'm going to do is just pull this. This is also back tacking. It's the aluminium one that I use on many of my stuff, and pull it all the way to the back. The side, just get rid of that too. So now what I'm going to do is start at the bottom, and the piping seems to want to come up quite easily. We'll go back and take out whatever staples I can. Once I've got as many as I can out, I'm going to go back with my tack remover to remove everything else that's in here, because it all has to come out. You don't want to leave anything in there. If there's anything that smells funky or oily that could leave stains on the top fabric, you need everything out. And I don't know the provenance. As I say, I just found this one. Could have been kept in the garage for years, for all I know. Having worked my way up to here, I'm now going to start on the welt cord, piping cord, and the metal trim. If I can, usually what I do is I put the pliers around the corner and then I start winding, and with a bit of luck it should pull out, there we are, the staples as it goes. The only trouble is the staples do end up falling on the floor as they come out. There's one gone now. And then of course this unwind it a little bit so you can get your pliers out, a couple more twists, and hopefully that will bring all of that out. Just do it slowly so you don't make too much of a mess. Go back while you're thinking about it and take the staples out at the same time. Clear out the stuff that you've left in there. There's, you know, you work a section, clear it, and then go back and clear out the rest. Now this I will clear out, but I'm not going to do it until I know what this is holding onto. I've got a fair idea, but I prefer not to assume anything until I get to the other end. And then I'll pull that through. This is the section I'm going to be working on. I'm going to take the inside and the outside arm off. As you can see, this is quite a slow process as I'm taking everything off as I go. The most annoying thing is I've actually got to take all of this out, and it's irritating when I have to do somebody else's job for them because they were too damn lazy. But anyway, I'll spend time clearing all of this off now. And we'll talk about other parts that I'm not happy with when I get there. Okay, so I've just undone this and this, which actually takes me to the base of the chair. So I'm just going to work all the way down. This is the inside arm that comes over here, and this is the chair base that goes over the springs. So I'm just going to work my way down here. This shouldn't be too bad. So I've undone this, and as I pull it, I won't pull it too much because it's pretty gross. I'm actually going to get the hoover and hoover in there so it's clean. Just pull this fabric out for now, like that. It needs to be pulled further through to the back, but I'm just doing this side at the moment. I'm going to cut that all off, all the way around, and get rid of it. Now I'm going to go on for this part. Pull that out here and up. Now I'm going to just cut down here, like that. This is what I dislike about some upholsterers. These poor people paid a lot of money for it to be recovered, and it wasn't. Well, it was recovered, but not in an honest way. I'm going to take all of this off as well. I've actually got a job that's going to take me twice as long because somebody didn't do their job properly. Never mind, it's happened before. As you can see, I've actually taken all of the inside and outside arm off. I wasn't going to do that initially, but I decided that the foam is probably a fire hazard. There was horsehair on here as well, so I know that a lot of it hadn't been changed. To replace the foam, it's a little bit expensive, but I think it's going to be worth it in the end. Just make sure that there's no staples left in to do you any harm, and I'll carry on around the back of here in a minute. Right, so now I've done most of that. I'll take this off later when I'm ready. Just twist the chair, and again I'll just work down. Nothing really new here to show you, so I'll get on with that. I'm just carrying on stripping this back. I'm going to go all the way along the top here. So by peeling this up, we've accessed the top of the arm. Usually I start at the back first, but because this chair is so heavy, it's something I can't keep pulling around. The inside arm actually comes through here, which is another place that needs to be tackled. You just need to be always looking for those little places. I've worked all the way along here, and I'm hoping that I can just pull most of this through. That doesn't mean to say I can get it all the way through. It's hooked up somewhere. This has been stapled on the underarm just to hold it in place, so I'm going to finish taking those out. This is the top of the arm here, and it had horsehair on. This was a nice chair at some point. So I'm just going to see if I can pull anything else off here, and then hopefully the last of this fabric from the arm will come out. I'll trim it there, and this has actually been tacked on the top. There we go, that's gone. And then all I've got to do is get this knot of stuff out, and there might not be so much on there. I'm thinking I can leave the back in. It's just the two arms that need to be renewed. It's still a bit knotty in there, but that might be fine because the arm's going to come up here. Right, I'm going to be measuring the length of foam that I need for this. So I'm going to take it from the widest point on here and then all the way around into here. So long as it's level, you don't want to be going at an angle. So I'm going to make that 31 inches. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from the base here. I'm going to do it in a couple of places to see what the widest point is. 17. That's obviously not going to be as wide. There's a bar that comes along the back here, so I'm going to go here and round, and that makes it, that's also about 17. This arm and the other arm is 18 inches by 31 by 1 inch. Should be enough to do that. I'm in the process of taking this piece off. I have to unstaple it at the back, but I can remove it from the front. And if I pick it up, there are stitches. So all I'm going to do is nick the stitch there, and it will come up all the way across. I'm not going to take the one up that's under there at the moment because I have a feeling that I might need to keep that until I've webbed underneath. So I'm just finding out what's wrong with the chair as I go. Pull that piece of fabric. The ties here move, so I know that that's all attached. So I'm going to take that off, and it's gone. I've got to take this piece off here and this piece off, which is the inside back of the chair. So I'll hoover this up, and then I'm going to just take this piece off because that's the top, and I'm going to leave this base piece in situ, and that was the same on the side that I said I was going to leave it. Right, if I put my finger there, you can see a staple. I couldn't get that out, and there's another one there and another one there. So all I'm going to do is bang them flat, and then they can't catch on anything. I'll be checking everywhere else to make sure they're all in or out. My advice when using a pry bar, be careful. A couple of years ago I was removing some stuff from a closet and it sprung out of my hand and smacked me in the eye, and I had a bruised eye for nearly 2 weeks before the swelling and the bruising actually went down. Having taken the fabric off here and what was left of the original bottom cloth off here, I can see that there's a square here. Thinking that it actually had square legs on it at some point. I'm going to look online and see if I can find some cabriolet legs similar to the Queen Anne, and then I'll be able to fix them in. Along here I can feel the springs actually touch the wood. I don't think they were meant to, and if I pull on the fabric back to where it should be, it starts peeling back. So if I push on here like this, we'll see what happens. This should actually come all the way to here. It wraps around a wire frame here which has come apart at some point, and then down here this is meant to wrap around the bar here as well. So by pulling all of that back more or less into place, the springs actually return to where they need to be. The front is back to where it needs to be. I'll have to pull all of that down when I put the front border on, and the chair seat is back where it needs to be as well. So I'm really pleased with that. This fabric looks pretty good, so I'm just going to put a new cover over it, and the same with the front. I also need to measure the front of here. Fold that over, straighten that out, and take it down to the base of here, which is about 16 inches. By the time it's all pulled in, it'll be a lot less. So I've found this fabric. Now I've got to determine which way this goes. I'm going to fold it over my finger. Feels like it could actually go that way, and it feels a little bit ridgy that way. Okay, to test fabric, sometimes you can tell on your cheek. Actually that feels smooth, and to go across where the ridges are, let's see, it feels rough. So I'm not going to be able to tell very easily with that. I'm going to do the lip test. I'm going to go across the fabric where the ridges are. Sometimes it's smoother with a soft side, and that feels ridges both ways. Go down, that's smooth, and that's rough. Just going to cut a little arrow down, and that tells me every time the arrow points down, that's the way the pile goes. You always work out your own method of doing this. Not having much room to work, I have just measured from the top here to my 16 inches and cut my first line. And as usual, I'm just going to move my ruler and cut up to there. I will be able to cut my first length. The other thing is I have to remember that I need at least 31 inches to go across the top. So in order to determine how much I actually need, I suppose I better measure it. Now to measure the front border, I'm going to measure both sides to the back of the arm here, which gives me 8 inches. So 2/8 is 16 plus the 31 that was across. Let's work it out. 2/8 for the back is 16. I've marked my first 16 inches. I'm going to put the ruler here and measure off my 31 inches. You could add everything up together, you get the same answer, but sometimes when you're doing multiple areas, it's easier to label them in your head and then work from there. As I work along my cutting here, I will eventually get in line with here. So I've cut most of my 16 inches there, and all I'm going to do is cut down here. I can follow the ridges of the fabric, so I don't actually need to measure it out. Join up the two pieces that I'm cutting. Now before I roll the fabric up, so I don't have to recheck it, I'm just going to put my arrow down there. I'm also going to put the arrow on here, just a little one, just in case I pick this up and go, oh, I only need that much. I already know before looking anywhere else where the top of the fabric is. Right, before I start stitching, you can see the original line here, and it goes down. So I'm going to do the same. I should be able to fold that at a 45-degree angle and pinch it in. And I'm going to put my initial pin there just to hold it. I'm working back, or should I say to the front of the chair. I'm going to wriggle that in underneath and see where that goes. That doesn't want to go where I want it to go. So I might have to sew it and make the alterations as I go. So anyway, with my first pins there, I'm pushing the fabric underneath with my finger up into the corner like this, and I will do the next one all the way to the front edge. Now I do it face down sometimes. This fabric, I don't have to look at a pattern and make sure the pattern's going where I want it, and I'm going to just pop this round like here so it smooths the corner out. And then at the front, I'm going to fold the fabric round to the back there and fold the top fabric down, and again pinching it in, it actually gives me that corner, so I can remove that one. My stitch mark will curve up here along the side of the chair to the top and then round to the front. Be prepared to pin this in maybe 2 or 3 times before you actually get it. So I'm just going to pull the fabric all the way along the front and repin the other side, because I might need to adjust it. Once you're happy with the pinned sides on both ends, just roll the fabric up and pull it away. I'm just going to sew this together. I'm going to start on this side, and I'm going to follow the way these pins go, maybe just a little bit on the inside of them so it really cinches up tight to the front border of the chair. I'm going to do it on a 3, which is quite a small stitch. I'm going to spray this down as well because it's got fire retardant, so it feels a bit rubbery, which means it might not pull like that. Just put a little one on top as well. And I'm going to go forward and back just to hold it there. Pins out. Now I use these larger pins. I think you can probably get them on Amazon. They're for upholstery. I'll just carry on going to the end of here. And that angle there. I'm going to reverse, hold it all in shape. And I'm going to trim to about just over 1/4 of an inch out from there. like that. I'm going to top stitch it to the top here. Basically, top stitching it's a secondary way of keeping everything in place. I'm going to just pop that down like that, pull my seam apart, and I'm going to run this join here on the side of this foot so it stays really close to the edge. Follow the contour that you've just put in as closely as you can. It's a bit of a bind, but it just gives strength to the seam. Just make sure the seam underneath actually stays facing this way. Just prior to the end, about 1/4 inch, I'll go back and finish off. You can see that this is all caught in over here and it should not be going anywhere. Nice finish. Now I'll do the other side. This side I pinned the way I was standing. It's not really a good way for me to do, so I'm going to just spray that with silicone. I'm actually going to place it with all the pins down, not usually a way you do it. I'm going to sew to the first pin here and then reverse. Pull that pin out and then work to the next pin, which is here. And just before I get to that pin, I'm going to pull that one out too. The reason is the fabric is going to just walk a little bit. It always does. And pull out the next one. Pull them out as you get there and you should be fine. I'm going to let that pull itself out, as long as I'm directing in the right place, and angle round to here and finish off. Again, reverse, cut this back 1/4 inch, going to top stitch, so I'm going to push that underneath where I want to be stitching and then pop it underneath and sew. Now this side, I've got this ridge here running along the inside of this foot to keep it even, and it might ripple a little bit, but it should go in quite nicely. So I've got the seat panel here and the front border here, which I've just been sewing, and I'm giving a very generous 3/4 inch seam allowance here. So on number 3, I'm going to reverse it and go forward, and I'm going to remove the pins as I go. As you get to the other end, go across the stitching here and reverse over it. And personally, I like to top stitch this too. Okay, so when top stitching, bring the seam allowance forward like that and start about 1 inch in from the end there, forward and back, and then stitch all the way across. This is running on the inside of this foot again, so I keep it nice and even. I've got the front border and the base here all sewn together. Pull this back into place. I'm going to work around this bar here, which means I'm going to actually have to cut in and around in a couple of spaces. So I usually do little snips like that until everything pulls in. This piece here will actually go down into that space and then here. So that will all tuck down and around. This will all be hidden, so if I overcut, it's not a huge problem. That is all going to go down to here, pulling this at the back here and the rest back there. That will hold everything in. Now I'm going to work towards the back of the chair. It's a little bit difficult to see, but there's a post that goes all the way down. I'm going to cut in at a 45-degree angle, so I'm just going to pull all of that out and stretch it across like that. Ideally you go from one corner, but I can cut it in a little bit closer so long as I aim towards that upright. There we go. Before I pull the back right in, I'm going to actually catch stitch this here, and I'm using cording that you can use in lines, so it's nothing really outwardly special. And I'm going to start by catching as close to the ends as I can. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to pull the fabric here right back so I can catch it into it. That is stable. They're like big running stitch, so they're about 1 inch apart. My grandma, I think, used to call them homeward bounders. Right into the pink, in this case pink fabric, as close to the white seam as you can get it. And I'm going to do that all the way along. I've recut on this side the same as I did on the other. Pop this through and there's the folded fabric. It goes hard up against the bar here. I've just cut into the inside of this, the inside corner, and it feels like I can go back a little bit more. I will do that now. Usually I try to put my finger exactly where I want to finish. Gives me a pretty good guide to work to. And now I can fold that one back like that and this one back under like that. I'm going to pull this in quite tight like this, and I'm actually going to stick it to the back here, and I'm going to pull out towards the outside like this and into that corner, and then I'm going to do it exactly the same to the other side. When I've done that, I'm actually going to cut it back. I'm going to be generous all the way across. I'm going to repeat on both sides. I'm going to be replacing all the foam, and this is the part I really don't like doing, because the foam likes to be flat and I want it to be curved. So I'm going to start here. There's a ridge here which is the arm of the chair, and I am going to just pop that in under here. Now it might not stay. I've got 1/2 inch staples, so I'm going to just push that up all the way around this shaping, and I'm going to kind of pull it as well. I'm not pulling it too much, but I am making it a little bit taut as I go along here. Being very extravagant with the staples, only because the more staples I've got in, the better it holds. I'm pulling it over, and I'm going to see if I can get some staples under here as well, just to hold it. Mind your fingers. Pull all of this into shape, bit of a tug so it will go underneath like that, and then into the corner. There's a bar that goes across here, so I'm going to make sure that the foam goes above the bar. So that will be this side of that bar. Because I want it to go through here, I'm going to cut it at an angle like this. And all of this will go through here to the back. It should be able to be stapled on the back bar here. If it can't all be stapled on, it's fine. Just a couple will work perfectly. Try to not get this dacron behind here, because if it is, it's going to be a problem when you put the new cover on. Is in there, and now I can staple under here like I did before. I'm going to have to cut so that it'll go around this bar too, just like that there, and then this will just pop in behind the front border. It's all got to go down inside here. Once it's down, I'm going to pull it on down. I cut some of it off going into the corner here. I'm going to hold it over like that and then cut right into the corner, and with a bit of luck that might do the job. Just use your fingers, bit of common sense too. Okay, that might work. I'm like pulling this down a little bit so it will go in. The nice thing about foam is it compresses. Pop that in like that, and then I'm going to work this in as well. I think it might work. It'll be smoothed out with dacron. Now I'm just going to pop this on down, and then I'll do the same on this back side. The dacron will smooth everything out. Put the tape measure down to the base of the chair and up and over by about, say, 2 inches, which comes to 33. That's being overly generous. Widthways, I'm going to go in just either side of these chair backs. That comes out as 38. Got some fabric here which has already been marked at the top, so there to there. Well, there's plenty on there, so I'm going to measure the width here till I get to 40. I'm just going to cut straight down here. Before I finish my line of cutting, I will remark where the top is, and I can actually follow the way it was woven in here and get a straight line down. This is the top. It has 2 clips in it, so I know where it goes. I see somebody's already measured it, but I always double check anyway. So here's my fabric for here. I'm going to pull it up towards the top, because if I've got any left over from here I can use it on piping. Along the bottom edge, what I like to do is run a straight line along here. I've got the centre mark and my V here. I'm going to raise it up about 1 inch. I'm going to carry that over to about 4 inches or a hand width in from there at the same height. And the same on the other side, about 4 inches in and as level as you can make it. Reason being, as I pull the sides in, that might come down and I might need to take these ones out in order to curve it, and then you get a really good finish. So I'm going to pull the back up as much as I can against the staples at the other end. And here's my center mark. So if I just kind of follow that up loosely to about there, I need that to be on the center here. And if I go up, my fingernail is actually on the black line. Pull that down so it's tight in here. Smooth it up and over so it eases it back in. I'm going to staple about 1 inch below there. Smooth out and back so it's in a flat line. I'm going to finish this at about 4 inches, sort of a hand length actually. So what I'm doing is pulling it up like this, and as I do it I kind of pull the fabric back towards me and down here. With a bit of luck that'll go in quite evenly at the top. Now it's ripply here. As I cut and pull all of this into the side, that will all come out. I'm going to cut in here. I'm actually going to cut at a straight line. It's about 1 inch away from the side, and I'm just going to pop that under like that, round there like that underneath. This might all come out later. I'm pulling it in now because I've got extra dacron going on here and it just gets caught in the existing stuff. I've just pulled this out from behind here. There's a bar here. So I'm going to cut up from here and kind of blindly, so it's not going to be a very straight line into that corner. I'm going to make it into a V from here, so that one actually goes under the bar. I'm going to cut a little bit up to go above the bar. These V's are actually quite important because they're the ones that fold behind everything and allow you to maneuver your fabric where you want it to go. And I'll probably have to alter it later because it's rippled. I'm not going to worry about that until I've got all of the side here. So I'm going to do the same on that side. I'm not securing it, I'm just putting it there to hold. I'm just going to put the dacron on. So what I'm going to do is make sure that it comes under here as before, and then I'm just going to pop that down. I'm not even going to bother securing it. That doesn't have to be secured down there, but I will put some staples along here, and again I'm going to put them up, smoothing it right into that side there. When I get to the top, I'm just going to cut in like that so that this side can be pushed in under here all the way to the back, which is why I wanted this fabric on. And this can be cut round like that and pushed up under there. I've just trimmed this back and I'm going to just attach it again to the wood that's here. As I get up here, I'm actually going to cut some of this out, just a little bit, triangles, so that they thin down some of the stuff that's going around here, because that is a lot of fabric to go in. I'm going to pull it down like that so that it goes in better. I'm going to work this in up here, just kind of bring it down and round a bit. I think I need to take more of that off because it really can't be bulky in here, otherwise when I put the fabric over the top it will be a bit messy. So that's that side done. I need to measure the inside arm. So I'm going to bring this, take measure to the corner here so I know that I've got plenty of room up there, and then all the way around and into there. So that's like 36 inches. If I make it 38, that would be perfect. So I'm going to go from the base, which is there, over the top here, and I'm going to take a couple of measurements because I'm not sure where the widest is. If I make it 29 inches deep, it'll be fine. Now I've laid the arm piece over. The fabric pattern is going down just like it is here and here. I'm going to make a few initial cuts. The first one is to go on the inside of the arm here. I'm not going to just go in here, I'm going to go in at a slight angle, and I'm going to stop about 1 inch away just in case I need to bring everything out. And then, having done that, I'm going to cut in at an angle here into that corner, because here I want to go round the bar. The top of the bar's here and the bottom is about 1 inch below, so I'm going to go in at an angle down there. There again I'm stopping about 1 inch away. Pop this all the way through to the outside. Having pulled this through, I'm going to pop that so it's level almost with the base of the chair. Secure that. Pull it out from the centre both ways and then fill in. I'm not going to go all the way to the end because I need to wriggle it around, and I'm not going all the way to the end on this end either because I'm going to have to move things around here too. On the top, I pull it up as much as I can, pull it round to the side here. Start in the middle like that. I'm going to staple into the side wood here like this. Then from my initial staple, which is there, I'm going to work the arm of the chair towards the back of the chair. And again, snug staples in right at the top. Mind your fingers. And do it one staple at a time if you need to. Also, move your way forward too. It's got to be quite tight as you follow the curve. Before we get to the corner here, stop short. I've almost stapled all of the outside at the top here, and I'm going to just push my fingers in till I get the inside of the chair frame, and I'm going to just cut straight in to the corner. I've got my finger there, maybe 1/4 of an inch out, so I could push the fabric further back if I wanted to. I'm going to start pushing this fabric through to the back like this, and it will take a little minute. I'm pulling this in. The bar here is not where I thought it was, so I am just going to cut a V up to it. I mean, I'll say cut with blindly but with confidence, but just be careful you don't cut your fabrics where you don't want them to cut. So now this bottom fabric can come all the way back. I'm folding it, but I'm pulling it down. This little V piece will pop in and go along the board here, because when I take this out shortly, I'll make sure it does. Now up here, I need to attach this to the front of this wood, so just cutting to the outside frame, and that will pull up into here. So I'm going to put a staple there. Pull this through, and I'm just going to fold it and staple it here. I'm going to pull it tight. Now at the bottom, this is the inside arm, fold it up. The fillings there, and I'm just going to pull that sort of round and down, that's so it's nice and tight. Now all I'm going to do is pull it back as hard as I can and work my way down. Cut it back sort of 1/2 inch in from the outside edge. The outside arm, I can't do all of it. I'm just going to pull it right back very hard against here, staple it, and then carry on up. Sometimes you need to put a pleat in, which I probably will, but I'll do that once I've got the bottom all pulled in, so I know where it goes. Having pulled in the back here and secured it, push this fabric down. You can see here my fingers. If I pull that on down, it's probably a good 1/2 inch to 1 inch. So I'm going to take these out and pull this in real tight. So working this corner in, I'm pushing all of this wadding and filler down into this corner here, and I'm folding the fabric round. I'm going to pull it right down tight over the top of this arm here, and I'm going to secure it back here. Then I'm just going to work my way round and up towards the top here. You try to remember to put the staples in sideways like this. As I carry on pulling up, I'm actually pulling this fabric in as it gets to the top. Put a bit of a curve in there. As I pull this in, I need to put another pleat which is even closer to the top, within 1/4 of an inch. Following the warp or the weft threads, depending on how your fabric goes, I start pulling in across the top. So I've put my pleat in, I'm going to pull down on here, so this goes in tightly too. Now as I get closer to this corner, I'm actually going to make a small pleat about 2 inches from the end to take up some of the slack. I refold this so it follows the lines and pull it round. Put another pleat in first before I secure here. Wriggle that in with my fingernails until I'm happy. Now the reason I pulled the fabric round is when I put any trim round, hides it. Also this has spread the bulk of the fabric out. Here you can see how tight it is as it comes around the corner, and the little pleats here just hold it. Now the back of the chair needs to come in, and I'm going to fold the top down like that, because here it's a little bit bulky, so I don't want to add more bulk to there. Although I'm pulling in, I'm not pulling in very much. I'm actually pulling in and pulling down, so this is going to have to be reworked. Cut this back, I don't need all of that on there, and I'm just going to pull it down a little bit, probably only put a couple of inches in. Usually this keeps with the warp or the weft thread, and it more or less has. I'm not going to be too fussy. There's some wrinkles here that I actually have to move out and down. So I'm going to push the fabric from the back forward, and hopefully I can actually grab hold of this. Just a little bit, that's all I need. Managed to get some of it out. As I look down here, there's a little bit of wrinkling which actually has to be pulled down to the bottom. I know there's a bar here at the top of my finger, so I'm just going to cut the fabric into that bar. I'm going to go up at an angle like that, which is a bit awkward. I have a little corner of fabric here which I'm going to push across and behind the stuffing if I'm lucky. So I'm going to push that in here like that, so it goes behind. That secures everything. And then I'm going to fold this over like that and pop that into place, and it should hold everything where I want it. But prior to doing that, I'm just going to cut a little bit down as well. So this little V here is going to be twisted back on itself like that. The fabric going at the top is also going to be twisted up, so that actually makes everything nice and smooth up there. I think by the time I've pulled everything across, everything will be hidden. This part here actually comes from the back of the chair. Because the selvage actually belongs on the back, I'm going to cut it in half like that, so where the back of the support is here. I'm going to pop that down the back here. So I've just been cutting across. I'm just going to cut a little bit further like that. Makes that do a funny little twist. So I'm going to cut a little bit further like that. So I've pulled that in real hard and twist that down on itself and secure it to the outside edge here. This can come in. Now sometimes people like to cut this and put some behind and some in front. Personally, I don't really care one way or another. I'm pulling this in here. I'm going to cover that up. Now this little piece here, I'm just going to pull down and forward and secure it. So I've just cut this back and I'm securing it here. And this too I'm going to cut back about 1/2 inch in from the outside. So that's this side of the back in and part of the arm. I've just pulled the staples out. I'm going to just pull this down about 1/2 inch and re-secure all the way along. It's important to keep your fabrics tight, otherwise when they get a bit worn in, they'll go saggy and horrible. When you get to the end, remember to keep that folded so it actually runs along the inside of the chair frame as you pull that into place too. And then trim about 1 inch up from the bottom. I'm going to try to keep everything level as I pull the fabric round to the outside like that. Now in doing so, I'm going to have to cut some of this back. Not too much. I'm going to just cut maybe 4 inches from the bottom there, not all the way along. And then I'm also going to cut in to the corner here where it folds round like that. It gives you kind of teeth. And as I go round here, I'm going to be pushing that down into the chair like that. The whole idea is it goes all the way down to the bottom and gets hidden in the folds of the fabric, never to be seen again. Might have to cut some of them shorter. That comes round, it keeps level, otherwise it will twist. I'm pulling this around and stapling it onto the frame here and snugly, otherwise we're not going to get the side. Just move that on round and in. When that's pulled down, take all the lines out, round, tight in. Now I've got to work the top in. We'll start at the bottom. If you're doing pleats, you kind of pull across the top here and roll your fingers up under until you get a nice pleat, like that. Pop that one in. When I put the next one in, roll fabric round, pull it from this side here. Make sure the pleats are kind of in line and pop the next one in. Pull that out and put another one here. I think I might have to cut that back. There, that's not so much fabric in there now. I'm going to just bring a little pleat here to the side. It depends what fabric you've got. Some fabrics are better at going in. So I'm pushing this pleat all the way back there so that this can come over the top. I think this is going to work. That kind of hides that a little bit, but not too much. So I'm going to pop that in here. Use my fingers and I'll pull that in nice and tight, and a couple more up here. So I've got 3 main pleats, a little pleat, and I'll match that up when I actually come to do the other side. And the other side goes in pretty much the same way as this one. So that looks nice and tidy for whatever I put on here. I'm putting this arm in and I've matched the height for the pleats. I've had time to think about how to do the front border. I'm just going to put a piece of dacron along the front here It comes below the base of the chair, and I'm just going to staple that. I haven't gone all the way around the corner. I'm going to add to it. Now I'm going to actually leave this in place. That doesn't make any difference. It's not going to show up. And I'm going to pull that down to here. I'm going to work out to each side, but I'm going to stop about 4 inches before I get to the corner. I need at least an inch under here. I've decided to leave the original ties in, and that's what keeps the front border in place. This comes here, so I'm just going to pop this here and staple that in place. I'm actually going to push down a little bit on the outside here, pull this round. This is so hard. I'd forgotten how hard these are to pull in. It just makes it more even at the top. I'm going to just fold that under like that, and that will give a nice corner to here. Nobody will know that it's a little bit busted up. I'm going to come on down a bit further here. On the side I'm pulling down like this, but also back towards the back here. It's going in quite nicely now because there's less for me to pull in. Pop that there and staple it either side, and then back in here. I'm going to make a little nick in this fabric here. The top of the wood comes to about here, so I'm actually going to go above just a little way, like that. I'm going to just leave that, but I'm going to pull that down here like this and secure again. I'm going to just trim back a little bit. Now, as I was pulling this down, this fabric was coming down, so I've just put a couple of staples in here just to keep it wrinkling, because that doesn't look very good. The overcut that I did actually comes in quite handy. It's almost where I need it to be. So I'm going to just pop that underneath like that and push that back into that hole there, along with the rest of the fabric. Now here I'm going to just pop that under like that and pull it tight. And I've got the way it's been woven, and I'm going to pull those down on the outside here like this. So I've just popped that in. I'm going to pull the side of this fabric into place. I'm thinking there might be a bit of a gap in there. I'll put another piece of wadding in here before I hold it down. Nice finished look, and pull this also underneath. Sometimes here you can put a fold in, but this one's just gone in quite nicely, I think because of the ridges in the fabric. Making the piping cord up, what I need is piping cord 2 inches wide because it's going to be stapled onto the chair. I'm just going to make one strip to start off with. I'm going to show you how to make the piping up. This actually doesn't have a pile, it's lumpy. If it did have a pile, I would indicate which way I wanted it to go. And put it at a 45-degree angle, and so from that corner to this one, so it makes a continual line. And pop that onto the foot. Put it to 2.8. I'm just going to sew across like that. So I'm going to cut that back to about 1/4 of an inch from the seam. The piping foot has a groove in it so that it holds the piping cord steady. I'm going to center the piping cord in there, fold the 2 raw edges together, and pop that underneath the cording foot, and the cording goes into the groove. Extend stitch to a 5, crimping the cording into the corner. I'm just going to sew. When you get to the join, open the join up and flatten it out. Pop the cord in the middle again, and as you close it, make sure that the seam stays open, and that cuts down on the bulk in the cording. I'm going to put some piping on. I've just cut back about 1/2 inch, which I'm going to rest here. So the edge of my piping is on the edge of the chair. I'm going to staple this into place, and it has to be in a straight line, so I might have to alter it later. We'll pop this in here. This goes up, so I'm literally going to pull it in a straight line and secure it. As I come to the corner, I'm going to allow the piping just to curve like this and secure that too in a couple of places, and I'm going to go at right angles to the piping. I'm just tucking it into the corner here, not too tight so it's snug. I'm just going to let it follow the shape of the underarm, and I've got about 1/2 inch, so I'm hoping that's actually enough for me to be able to put the back tacking on. Pull it all the way to the back so I can pop it around the corner. Right, having got them in, all I'm going to do is push them So the top edge is running with the top of the piping like that. You're not closing them all the way up, you're just closing them so they're not quite as wide open as they were. And you'll learn more or less where the best place is for it. I've got the original side piece and I'm just going to staple that back into place so it goes down the bottom. Not too close, high enough around here. Just tack it. So I've cut a piece that should be plenty big enough. I'm going to bring it over the piping by about an inch and I'm going to select where on the bottom I'm going to secure it. I'm doing bottom first. This is so that both sides are the same, so I'll be able to make sure that's working on the other side. Just pop that there. I have just secured the bottom of this fabric and put a pattern match so it's at the top, the bottom circles and almost halfway through the circle above. The reason I've secured at the bottom is because I need something to pull against, so just make sure that that looks about even here before I start cutting. I'm going to hold that into the top like that and cut around the top where the piping, I can pull it down later if it's too generous. I'm just going to pop the fabric in behind the metal. I've got a long needle and I'm just literally going to push this fabric down behind the teeth like this so it's nice and secure. You need that, otherwise the teeth aren't going to grab hold of the fabric. When you've got some secure like that, and be generous, bang this in place. Not too many, just like an inch as I work my way round. I'm going to slide it up towards the top of the arm, not too much because I really don't want it to be stretched, and then cut another section. It's easier if you do it section by section because you've got more control over what you're doing. Getting your needle, pull the fabric into place, and then very carefully pop it around the top of the metal like that. It's easier to do it with piping round than without. You've got more room, and when you've got your little section done, bang it into place and move down to the next part. The thing is not to bend the teeth over flat as you're doing this. If you do, then they're not going to catch the fabric for you. Now when you get right underneath, it's very difficult to find where the piping is, so having cut a generous allowance because I can't really get under there, carry on with the blunt end pushing the fabric over the metal, and if you need to, grab hold of the piping so it can separate it. Now as you get towards the back and it starts curving up, you actually want to pull the fabric towards the back of the chair and tuck it underneath firmly, otherwise you'll end up with ripples and you don't want to do that. Cut down a couple of inches. I've got my fingers above the piping, so it's a really generous cut. Just rescued this from its original cover. It came from this chair, so I know it will fit. It's a pair of pliers just to straighten out any of the little nails, just so it is as straight as you can get it, with all of these as straight as they can go. Sometimes it takes a little bit of squidging to get them right. I have carefully worked this into line so it's along the edge of the piping. So what I'm going to do is put a pin mark along the fold like that every so often. I just find it a lot easier to put those back tacking strips in if I have done this. It just makes things a little bit easier. I've never been shown officially how to put them in, so it was trial and error. When I was taught upholstery years ago, the old gentleman would have hand sewn all of this in, so that's how I was taught, was to hand sew. Now, having undone the first staple, I'm going to pull all of this back as far as I can and lift that up. This isn't actually in yet, so I can pull that out. I'm going to start at the bottom so I know where I can't go, and I'm going to ease this in. Sometimes I don't want to go in, but make sure the pin is running along the side of your metal strip. I'm going to work my way to the top. Now you want the pins to be on this edge of your metal strip, and sometimes they take a little while to get all of them where we need them without removing anything. Try it out, and if you need to move your metal strip, into place a bit better, do so. Actually, I'm going to move it up a little ways, so that means I've got to start all over again, but it's worth a good finished look to do that. When you're satisfied, remove the pins and then flip it with everything pointing down and line it up next to your piping. It better be where I want it, because this is like a one-shot deal. And then I'm just hammering it all the way down. I didn't knock it in too far, so I can maneuver this one a little bit and the next one. I'm pushing the metal up towards here, just knock that in. And here where it's not quite right, just roll it down with your fingers and squish it in. You'll be fine, nobody will notice. And then pull your fabric round tight underneath. You should be able to pull it in a little ways. So although I had a circle at the beginning of this, I'm going to probably pull it a little bit further in, make it even to a new line until I've got to about here. But before I secure anything else down, I'm going to peel back the piping here. Once the piping is level with the back of the chair, I'm going to nip it off. Be careful, because you don't have very much room to mess around with, and you don't want to cut the actual cover of it if you can help it. So the first thing I'm going to take around the back is the cording. I'm going to secure that. I finished the tacking at 1/2 inch, sometimes 1 inch. I'm going to pull that round like that, and then I'm just going to make my way down so it looks even. You can always infill if you want to. Now before I finish off, I've managed to pull this into line, and I'm going to actually re-pull all of this down so it's in line with this inner edge of the wood here, and then I'm going to put the legs on. Now sometimes there's a hole in the corner where a dowel goes between here and the legs. In this case there isn't. I'm just going to screw them in on top. Sometimes you won't be able to undo the legs because of the way they've been put on. In this case they can be unscrewed at any time and new ones put on. It's also advisable to work down the side and pull the sides in a little bit firmer if you feel the need to. So I'm going to just work down this side, and when I finish this side I'll work down the second. Where each leg had been removed, they didn't actually do a very good job, so I'm going to sand this corner down, and I'll sand all the other ones down. Usually there'd be a leg here and I'd cut round, but because it's slightly uneven, I'm going to just leave the fabric in place and pull it on down. If there's any abnormalities here, it will kind of fill in the space that I need filled in. Now due to the way I'm doing this corner, instead of making a fold and that, I want as little fabric in there as possible, so I'm literally going to pull that down here and secure. So I'm going to run this edge of the piping along the side of the chair, along the top there. There's the piece I'm going to pop underneath. I'm just running the piping up here. The outside edge is parallel with the side of the chair, all the way to the top. Up here there's a little bit more padding, so I feel for the edge of the wood and then run this along the edge of the wood. Just gives it a better finish. Now as I get to the top, I'm just going to pull that in along here. Give it a little bit of tautness. I'm just going to come straight along to the top edge. There's a slight shaping here which I really need to keep. I'm going to run the top of this along the top edge of the chair. You don't want to see it from the front. And I'm just going to carry on going down, running my finger along the wood, and I'm going to work my way all the way down to the other side in a minute. I have to turn the chair. Just drape this fabric over the back like that. Make sure that it actually goes round the side, from there to this side goes here, so I'm going to just cut it over, and goes from that circle to that circle. So I'm going to follow the pattern here like this, just cut it up. I know that that's going to go underneath here to here, so I'm just going to cut an extra inch for turnings all the way along. That's the back that's going to go in. I've got my piping cord here. I'm going to just run this across the top, and I'm going to be using this back tacking, and I'm going to pop that as close as I can to this corner, hard up against the piping. Start a little way in from there, although I'm going to leave that much there to start off with. I usually run the edge of the fabric with the edge of the cardboard. Let's pop that in there and secure it. Pull it a little bit, but not too much. Put the next one in and tuck it hard up against the piping. You can come back later and infill. What I tend to do is put it at an angle, and I use 1/2 inch staples. Put the next section in like this. It doesn't take too long, it's just a bit awkward, that's all. And I do that all to the end. If you pull it a little bit, it gives a nicer finish, that's all. Having stapled that across, I'm going to pop a piece of Dacron in, and I'm also going to take that to the end here. Push that up above the cardboard, sort of almost level with the top of the chair. All the way across again. You see here, it's by the time it pushes in, it's a bit lower, but not much. Here's the back of the chair here, and I'm going to run that to the base of the chair here. Gives a bit of support to the exterior fabric. And I'm just going to cut down the outer edge here, all the way down so it's level. I still have to put this in, that's why I haven't stapled down the side yet. And then I'll cut down the other end to make sure that's level too. I have to pull this in a little bit more here, I'm not happy with the way this went in. Let's cut that back to the bottom of the chair. I'm going to snip the piping cord out. Having done that, I'm going to bring it to the corner of the chair, and I'm going to bring it in at a 45-degree angle. Because I can't have it going across here, it would look silly. Now I'm going to come back to the top here, and when I pull my chair back down towards the side, I have to account for the fact that it goes around a corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch the top of the chair round like that, hold it in with my fingers, unwrap it a little bit like that, and secure at the top. I'm going to do the same there. When this comes in, it's already started to go around the top, and now I've got to work out the length that I need to use here. Now I did show you how to straighten these. The piece I had taken off here wasn't long enough, so I've just had this one cut so that I can use this one instead. Okay. I'm pulling this piece of fabric into the bottom of my chair. I'm going to put a pin on the bottom edge. That is so that I know the piece of metal that I'm going to use has to fit along this edge here. It doesn't go all the way to the bottom, but it does need to go almost from the top here. I'm not going to have to pin this one. I'm just going to have to make sure that the side of the metal runs along the side of the fabric like that, where it's loose and starts getting thicker. Sometimes I have to pin it, and other times I don't have to. So I'm going to pop that all the way to the top and ease it all into position. Because I think when I twist it, it will go in exactly where I want it. And if it doesn't twist in the right place, I'll just undo it and do it again. I was never shown how to do this, so it's something I have to use different methods to do. And put it a little bit taut, because you don't want it all baggy and saggy. I'm just going to turn that over up there and see whether that looks like it's in line. And sometimes at the top I need to try it a couple of times. So I think that will do it. And I'll push the Dacron down so it doesn't get caught. It doesn't need to be. And I'm going to just run that inside of the piping. And I just bang a few in before I go to the next part, so that I can keep it where I want it. Just go up and down until it's all in. Sometimes I use a piece of fabric over it so that doesn't bruise the fabric, but I think I'm okay with this. It's a thicker fabric. It's not a chenille or anything, although it has got ridges and that. So here again, it's just going right by the piping. There we go. That's actually gone in quite well. Even at the top, it looks okay. With my hand, I'm just going to go up and push that up over. There we go. Cut some of this out because it's bulky, and then I'm just going to pull it around the bottom here and into place and secure it. And then while I'm working on this end, okay, I'm putting the legs on, and I've got a drill bit that is about the same size as this, or same width of the screw that I'm putting in. Very important, otherwise you could split the frame. To line up the leg with the outside here, as this folds, as this comes in and goes flat, that's where I want it, on the outside edge, on both the front and the side, which should mean that when I drill the pilot holes here, it should go through the frame without being a problem. Because that one slipped, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in here, start it off, screw it to the pilot hole, and leave that there, drill the second hole where I want it, like that, and into place. And I'm going to take this one out and re-screw that into place. Now I'm putting the bottom cloth on. I'm folding it over about 1/4 of an inch and putting it about 1/4 of an inch back from the front and stapling it to within about 1 inch, 2 centimeters in from the inside of the legs. And I'm just going to pull that down and into the back like that. And all I'm going to do is a stabilizing stitch, so I'm not even going to put it close in, I'm just going to put it on the edge so I can easily take it out. Where the leg goes in, I'm just going to cut in at an angle. Oh dear, that was my nail just being taken off. And also a little way in from the top and the folded side here, like that. I'm going to cut that out actually. And fold that down into the corner, and if I cut at an angle, that should go in quite nicely. There. Here we go. And again here, just going to fold that under, like that, and it will hold. Just try to make it as neat as you can. It's not compulsory, but if it goes above there, it will hold everything in place. Oops. And then I can secure that too. That'll be fine. It's not going anywhere. So just put this first one in to hold it. I'm going to carry on folding the fabric over towards the top, like that. I'm going to just secure it. It's going quite smooth, otherwise it will show underneath the chair. Now usually the back of the chair, the back leg is part of the back support here. So I'm going to put these legs on. They're not the best legs to put on, but at least they match the front. I couldn't find anything that looked plain that would do the jobs. I did notice something with the other, and that was, it was a little bit more ripply than I wanted it. So I'm going to ease that in, and then I'm going to cut this piece off here. It's taken some of the bulk out. I'm just going to secure that into place here. Now I'm just going to pull all of this in line, all the way down the back. And then just work in the rest of the bottom cloth. I'm really pleased with this chair. It's turned out really well. And I just hope my friend's going to be pleased with it, and it's not too posh to go into his little into his little apartment. I think it's going to take up most of the room actually. It's tiny where he's living. But in the meantime, I hope I've covered everything for you in this video, or this set of videos. The first set was the springs underneath. I just needed to repair the base for that. The second one is obviously this one. It's the chair itself. The third one is the tea cushion, how to make one, and how to make the pattern for it. And then the last one was the tea cushion for the back. So hopefully you can mix and match and find out what you need to do if you've got a similar project. If you want to hear more from me, please subscribe and hit the bell button. And in the meantime, take care. See you later. Ciao. I hope I've covered everything. I really do. I tried to think of everything you might need to know. So in the meantime, if you want to